Hi, I'm Paul Warren,
And I'm Ryan Klein.
and this is another episode of SEO is Dead and Other Lies. Ryan, how you doing on this wonderful day?
I'm doing quite well. I'm posted up here somewhere in Houston. I feel like it's possible I've been recording more podcasts not at home than
Dude,
at
you're just a
home.
man of a national mystery. I don't say
It's all
international because
oh yeah, it is national. It's all
just the
domestic.
states.
Yeah, you're right. I'm not going to dispute that.
It's like a shittier version of Austin Powers.
Yeah, baby. So we're going to get right into it today because I have an awesome concert to go to in a little while. But this is one that we've been anticipating for a while, and we're glad to be presenting to everyone today.
All
And
right. Well, let's just dive right in. Why don't you lead us off with the topic?
Sure. So I wanted to do this back in September, and you, Paul, were like, dude, no, it's way too early. Let's wait until it's closer to the end of the year. And I said, come on. And you said, no. I said, come on. And I said, all right, it's almost December.
Well, you have to tell them what the topic is before
I
you
was
get into
getting there.
the backstory.
Of course. Yeah. So I want to talk about, and we want to talk about today, bold predictions for 2020.
So SEO predictions. So how the SEO landscape is going to change, or how it's going to behave in 2020, which
Right.
you wanted to do a full 6 months.
I did want to do it quite a bit in advance.
6 months before 2020. So I guess after this, we'll be recording it for 2021.
Yeah, I think that we should.
as well.
Yeah, we should do the way too early predictions. Like college football.
Remember when Nebraska was like preseason top 25?
Oh, they were top 25, and they went 4-8 the previous year.
Remember when UCF was ranked?
Next year,
A long time ago.
So it's not only bold predictions or semi-obvious predictions to us that we are going to share, but it's also going to be kind of an overview of what projects we're both working on, and that should also illuminate some of the things that we're anticipating. So we'll talk about both.
I'm going to focus on the local side, and you can focus on the national side.
Oh, is that how we normally function?
Well, no, because that's my main focus currently.
Oh, that's true. Well, it's local on a national level.
Yeah, that's true. I guess I meant more like organic, just traditional organic.
Okay, so let's get right into it. I think that we'd be remiss if at this point it is November 20th, 2019, if we didn't talk about Bert and Bedlam before we proceed with the rest of this podcast. This is not a podcast whatsoever about Bert, but what really happened in Bert only a couple weeks ago, 3 weeks ago?
You couldn't optimize for it at all, right? It was just sort of how people search things and then how that intent closely matched up with the search, right?
It was like asking me. It was one of those things where I went through and I'm like, no. I think it's very like much semantics and linguistics, and then talking about the difference between there, and there, and some other.
It got smarter with how it returned a result. So I think that like less results are going to be returned, right? Because it's better at like figuring out what someone wants, and like the latent semantic indexing of like those terms. I think it just got like a lot more intelligent in figuring out what someone wants, using like different synonyms and things.
Sure. So that's overview of Bert. I hope everyone learned a lot there. But I think that we're going to be coming back to it. I'm going to tie it in later with the predictions, though.
It was very complicated. All the literature was just like, we don't really know. Google's not really telling us a lot about what it does or how it does it. Just like with RankBrain, they don't really tell you a whole lot of how it works, right? Or how to optimize for these things. They just say, we're doing this thing. In fact, I think Google said that you can't optimize for BERT.
Say they can't optimize for anything.
Yeah, that's what they said.
Well, if you optimize for, you're going to try to trick us.
I'll talk about Bedlam because it's what I'm dealing with right now.
Well, right before we get there, yeah, we're definitely going to talk about that because I have my own take too. But Bert, like you just mentioned, it is one of the few things in a while where I went through it and some of the real SEO geeks and nerds went into depth about it and didn't really walk away with anything. So that's kind of how that update happened.
Yeah.
And then also there's an example of, I'm going to do suggestive search of SEO is dead, and then it returns 2018, 2019, and other lies.
Oh, yeah, we saw that.
Yeah.
So that's how much search volume is around our podcast name, buddy.
I know. Thanks, Bert. So Bedlam.
I wonder what the IP address that would come from. Probably be in, Tavares, Florida.
No.
Where it's live.
For your parents? Then mine would be like Boynton Beach, Florida.
Yeah, we got a lot of search traffic around that. So thanks, Mom.
Thanks, Mom. Since day one.
Anything else you want to add about BERT?
I already forgot what BERT is.
Yeah, it was sort of like when Rank Brain came out and people were just sort of like, well, what do I have to do about this? And they're like, no, you can't do anything. And then you're just like, oh, okay, cool.
Well, I think
oh, cool, you're doing this? Cool.
I think our listeners have to understand that it's not that we don't care. It's one of the things that there just aren't really any takeaways. It's more like an acknowledgement.
And sometimes even when they announce an algorithm update and you do a bunch of stuff, there isn't any takeaways after that either. Like the mobile apocalypse that happened where everyone like freaked out. They're like, oh man, if my website isn't mobile optimized, I'm not going to rank anymore. I'm going to drop out of the rankings. And then everyone like just busted their ass to do it. And then it happened. And a lot of people didn't do anything and nothing changed.
I actually, now that I'm thinking about it, I think it's just collusion between like someone that works at Google and like their buddy. And they're like, hey, listen, we're just going to announce this thing, set up a bunch of landing pages that say BERT optimized or optimized for BERT. And I'm going to drive, like, I guarantee you're going to get traffic.
If I had the ability to troll like an entire industry with just a tweet, I would probably do it from time to time.
Yeah, BERT stands for BERT, trolling. So just figure out the first letters in that.
Yeah, but the last one's important. It's the troll. All right, let's talk a little about Bedlam. This is still happening. I think I'm seeing some repercussions of it even today, which is the 20th of November. I think another round of updates have just kind of started going through because I'm seeing some crazy fluctuations in my rankings. But what they're saying is that it's tied to relevancy of your listing. So whether that's categories, it could be a lot of things. It could be keywords and reviews. They don't really know. All they know is that it's tied to like relevancy and not location. So, no one quite knows how to optimize for this. I mean, a lot of people saw their rankings rebound already, which is cool. I saw things rebound over the past couple of days. And then I saw today around 4 o'clock, some pretty massive drops. So this morning, everything was like looking good. And then all of a sudden, boom, we dropped 5, 6. Well, I'd say the most we dropped for anyone is probably like 11 spots, but most of it's been the 2 or 3 spot range. So
wow, you're looking at the stuff hour by hour. That's pretty intense.
Google's been causing me a lot of ulcers. Yeah, a lot of ulcers lately. So when you have to maintain hundreds and hundreds of local business listings that are entirely accounting on your local listings driving business to it, it's a lot to keep track of and a lot to worry about.
Sure. You're talking about relevancy. I actually read a couple of things that was tied to very specifically to location.
One of the great local SEOs, Joy Hawkins, over at the local search forum, did a pretty big study on it and said she was able to sort of cancel that out. But with this recent change, I imagine there's going to be some stuff coming out tomorrow about this. We don't know yet. So maybe it is tied to like location.
I pretty much got that Google's trying to kind of tie in a little bit more about location based because they're just like anticipating people being on mobile and moving, and they're always dynamically changing their search results based off of like very specific locations with not always static IPs. That's like kind of what I got. But one thing that I definitely read with this, and I saw people's different studies, is it didn't like affect the correlation with things that we were anticipating to be a stronger correlation. So I was a little bit disappointed to see that no one thought the update improved anyone's positioning based off of reviews, or based off of authority. And that much kind of goes in the face of what I've been seeing the direction should go, that I think that would be more sensible.
But you haven't seen any drops in your rankings.
But I haven't seen any drops, is true, for dozens and dozens of people.
Interesting things. Stressful times in the SEO.
That just means whatever I'm doing is awesome.
We do the same things. I don't know.
Oh, well, I mean, we do. I mean, they're different industries, and then we also know that things affect different industries differently too. So I guess that's kind of a preface for some of the bigger picture things, and these things kind of tie into some of our projections, and they also tie into some of our projects, which are very similar words.
So let's talk a little bit then. Oh wait, we got a good question that we have to answer.
Let's get that out of the way too before
one of our listeners. Yeah. I won't name his name because I'll keep privacy important here. But it was a really good question actually, because it's something that, depending on what you're doing, it could be different. But WordPress, the most popular CMS in the world, call it WordPress. Now as well just do that. We were asked, what are the best plugins for SEO to use? And that really depends on kind of what you're going to do. And I've never found one plugin that really does all of the things. I would say Yoast comes as close as you can possibly get to that, but there's still things that like it won't integrate with, right? There's no way to like just put in a container ID for your tag manager, and then all of a sudden you have like Google Tag Manager integrated into that, right? So it's really just like, hey, you can put in your Google Analytics, you can put your Search Console stuff in, you can edit your metadata, you can really easily, tell pages that you don't want to be indexed. I don't think it has a redirect function, does it?
Not that I know of.
Yeah, so that's
like a separate. That's just like a separate plugin. Two bloated plugins, but yeah, once you start filling in the gaps, that's how you get 10, 15, 20 plugins on your website.
So if you're building a website that you're just using to rank other sites with, which bad word in this industry, bad term, it's called ranking. PBN, rank. There's other things that you'd want to do to like block crawlers or block. Google Fonts is a thing. So like everyone was thinking that if you use like the default fonts from WordPress, it's like linking back to Google and allowing them to tell it like this is your site, and they can like connect them and all this stuff, so that you would install a plugin that was like remove Google Fonts. I would say though, if you're just, it's your own website that you're just trying to rank and that it's like your main site, right? It's important. You can't go wrong with Yoast. What's the other? You always want to have like a good schema plugin, which I think it's the wrong term.
Well, it's structured data, but
structured data.
The plugins still say schema because they probably don't update. They don't update the title. Did you from Corey? Do you have the ones specifically suggested?
Yeah. The ones that you told me from Corey.
Oh no, it wasn't Corey. Yeah, it was me. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, it was you. I think Yoast has a pretty good structured data addition to it recently that you can use. I've always used a different one than that. What's the name of that one again?
Oh, so I'm looking at it. It says WP SEO structured data schema. So I don't know if that's redundant.
That's the one.
There's also schema app structured data for schema.org.
I would just make sure that you have a really good 3-1 redirect plugin as well, because that's always something that's going to come up. Like you're always going to have to redirect pages at some point. So
sure. And then also the WPMU is really good at preparing. I think it mentions the update of Hummingbird a lot for one particular reason or another. But it's like, what was a really popular one that used to do like a ton of compression and caching, but then it kind of just broke crap after a while. It doesn't matter. Anyway, this one does like your browser caching, image caching, your page caching. It does like automatic compression to an extent. It's not like amazing unless maybe you pay more, but maybe compresses CSS, JS, inline.
That's always really good. Yeah,
like it takes care of that. It's site speed stuff.
Yeah, it's important. Outside of that, though, I can't really think of anything that's like necessary that would be a WordPress plugin that I would say that you'd have to use. Maybe like some easy like maps embed type of thing. If you got local, you can always go that route. Honestly, you try and avoid plugins as much as you can because you have to worry about them being updated, and you have to worry about exploits, and you have to worry about like all the unnecessary like JavaScript that they add to your site. So if like you can avoid them, you always kind of want to. But if you have to use some, I would say like kind of make it minimal. I mean, there's a ton of things that you can add to your site that are going to like enhance your stuff that you would essentially add through Tag Manager, as opposed to like using like a plugin.
Yeah. One thing I want to say at plugin before we move on to our podcast is the more specific the SEO task is, and like the less likely whoever the developer is of updating it, and the more likely it is to like not function or break eventually. So just be like cautious about like this very specific thing you're fulfilling with a plugin too.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I remember, I think it was like a year ago. Wasn't there a plugin that like someone forgot to like update, or like that was a really popular one that caused like a bunch of problems? Do you remember? It was like a really popular SEO one.
Oh, really yeah. Well, that was the one I think I was talking about. That was with the caching. I think it was a really popular one that was really well known for its like image compression, its browser caching, page caching, and I think it just ate it real bad, and it like screwed up a lot of websites. I'm almost positive that's the one I mentioned. I'm like very, 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 very not certain, but I feel like it's very high likelihood that's exactly what I'm talking about, because that's the reason we use the WPMU now and not the predecessor.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna go with your word on this one, buddy.
Cool. It's great because I don't even know what it's called, but that's what it did. Let's go back and forth and let's talk about the things that we're very, very sure of happening in 2020, and any good marketer will be very aware and know how to do this thing.
Okay. So here's my SEO conspiracy theory. All right.
No, we're not there yet.
Hold on.
That's the bold one.
Hold on. This is gonna make sense. It's gonna make sense. Let's say that part of your assumption on like the local update that just happened is location based, right? So that would mean that you can't rank in the same amount of zip codes as you were before, right? So maybe it's like 2 zip codes away, you don't rank in it because whatever they've tweaked the algorithm to do. Well, here steps in our paid local campaigns, right? You know that they've wanted to launch this. We read through the stuff that they were gonna like offer. It's gonna happen, right? So what better way to do that than to force people to pay for increased reach for their listings? So I think there's going to be a huge increase of paid options from Google My Business. And one thing it's going to do, it's going to price out kind of crappier businesses, and it's going to get rid of spam from that standpoint, because they won't be able to afford to play, right? And then it would make perfect sense that this is why they're doing it.
Oh, I agree. I mean, we're definitely in the trajectory. Google is monetizing the crap out of everything. So anytime that you are saying there's a conspiracy theory where Google will make more money, I very much doubt it's a conspiracy theory. I think that the question is more, is it going to happen today?
When's it going to
next week? Is it going to happen next month? That's what happens with those, I think, because it's just, we just see it. It just happens gradually over time. I think that's definitely a very likely prediction. I think if I had like a long-term prediction about like the results of Google as far as monetization, I think that personally, like, I don't know if this is bold, this is kind of in between. This is like my 4 out prediction, but I think that in the next like few years, there just isn't going to be like a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Like, I don't think it's going to be like a list of results. It's going to be like so personalized and so in a form that we can't conceptualize just yet because it's invented by aliens, that it's just going to be nothing that you'd kind of imagine. And I think that one way you can kind of conceptualize it is like voice search. Like voice search, you're not seeing anything. You're getting one result. It's like catered to like one thing. So if you were to do it like on your phone or on your computer, I don't think it's going to be like a list like uniform anymore. I think it's going to be something that we can't imagine just yet.
Interesting.
It's going to be like in 3D. I'm like, I know it sounds weird, but I'm not joking. And of course, the one that's much more likely is that voice search is going to definitely have its foothold.
I say,
big time next
can
year.
they even monetize voice search right now? No, they can't. I say then that Google figures out a way to monetize voice search.
Oh yeah, well I agree with that too. It's like this result is brought to you by eBay.
Yeah, voice paid ads. It's going to happen. It's going to happen.
I don't see. I like everything is being monetized, and if half of users use voice search, what is going to happen? Google is going to lose half the revenue? Of course not. That doesn't make sense.
No, they're gonna capitalize that, and they're selling you the devices most of the time too, outside of Amazon, right? But I believe Amazon uses Google, anyways. That's another interesting thing. I think that there's a small level of interest. I'm not really basing this on anything other than logic of like Amazon offering a search engine that's just based off of voice and Alexa.
Oh, like a separate search engine with separate algorithm?
Yeah, because I think that eventually when that becomes a paid arena, right, then Amazon isn't going to want to like give that same money to Google when they could be making it. I think there's a strong likelihood that they would enter into that, but in the voice space where it makes sense. I mean, they're not going to take on actual like organic search or anything like that. I mean, I don't even think Bing will last that much longer. You
don't think it's getting its share back, which Bing
I don't. I don't. I think that it had a small opportunity where it was like the default search engine installed into a lot of Microsoft devices. And I think that a certain generation, we'll call them boomers, purchase those devices, and they don't know how to they don't know how to change things, they don't know how to change a lot of the settings, and they just left it as that. But I think, everyone our age or younger, like, grew up using Google. They have Google phones, right? Like, who doesn't like Chrome compared to like any other browser? So I think like its days are kind of limited.
I like that your days are numbered. And then
Get rid of it. It's stupid anyways.
Yeah, like, DuckDuckGo is supposed to be kind of like a breakout search engine. I don't know anyone that uses it, not really cares much.
Did you ever see like the commercials they made for Bing, and where it was like,
we did a blind
results test of the two, and we asked people to see which one they preferred. And they're like, 9 out of 10 people picked Bing, and it's like,
oh my gosh, that was Bing. And I was like, oh yeah, they thought it was Bing because the results were like in an interface that looked like Google probably.
Yeah, but that's such a silly like test at all. It was like, oh, we found that 9 out of 10 people preferred our classified ad section to your classified ad section. They looked almost identical. It's like you couldn't tell the difference between the two.
So search engines are all gonna be dead, and Google's take over, like already has forever. They're gonna monetize the crap out of everything. They're going to continue to let directories dominate search results, because their algorithm is also never going to get sophisticated to the point where it can't be manipulated ever. That's my long-term prediction. Whenever they tweak one thing or try to update something using their bazillion MIT man hours, they're just going to open up a gap somewhere else. Links will never become obsolete. What do you think?
No, I don't think they can. I don't think that Google wants them to either. I think they're useful. I mean, I think they can be, obviously we game them all the time, but I think like the algorithm needs to be able to crawl to other websites, so it needs links to do it. I don't think there's a better way to tell the relevancy, like legitimate relevancy of a page than people linking to it. I mean, and they're not going to like value what social's doing that much because they're in competition with them. So
well, that's why I was going to say is like, is there ever going to be a point where like they set up a part of their algorithm where they're like, oh, this brand or this website's being mentioned across multiple pages and posts and people on like Instagram and Facebook, and now that's officially a ranking factor?
I don't think so. Yeah, so I think that links will still be around.
That's cool. That's good for us link builders.
Well, I mean, it's good for organic SEO. It's always something that we can probably take advantage of, right?
What's our next prediction? If we don't have any other, we can move on to projects, because I just realized that my show starts in 20 minutes. And
crap, we better hurry.
And not an hour and 20 minutes.
Okay, so I got a good one. I'm just trying to dominate the local space in the area that I'm working in. So it's a lot because there's a lot of locations. That's pretty much it.
I thought I was going to conclude this podcast. We can move into 2 podcasts. Well, we can do our predictions and we can do our projects. Unless you're not into that thing, that kind of thing.
Well, I don't really want to go into my projects because obviously, I work full time in-house at a place, and I don't want to like discuss particularly what we're doing with that.
Ultra proprietary. Well, I can.
Yeah, even though it's probably pretty easy to figure out where I work if you just like Google my name and like look.
Oh yeah, LinkedIn. Right. It's just like you're like so secretive. I can't believe you're saying anything, and then you go on your LinkedIn and it lists out everything that you've ever done.
Yeah, I know. I'll talk about past places I worked. I don't care.
Well, we don't have to talk about those places.
Delve into like a lot of stuff about like where I currently work. I just don't feel
of course
like it's appropriate.
Well, I think that talking about what projects we're working on, putting in the mail where the mouth and the money meets. It's just like, we talk about our projects we care about. Obviously, that's like practice what we preach or whatever. There's too many quips and lines you can use. I mean, I definitely think that taking advantage of any structured data is great, and I think that Google is going to take advantage of that. And I think that it's important for people to kind of keep an eye on the new kinds of structured data that are slowly being rolled out, because I don't know if people stay on top of it or get like alerts or proactively see what other categories there are, but I think that they kind of slowly roll out, and sometimes people aren't even aware of them. And then by the time you look back and you're like, wow, there's a thing called live blog posting now.
Any other bold predictions?
I got another 4 minutes. It's just this year was like a big year. We went kind of all in with Eat in the beginning of the year, and it turns out that it actually did more harm than good. We did it for a lot of people, a lot of content, and I think that I think that the results, there were improvements, but I think it was marginal. So it's just like, I don't know, when it comes to like these big things, it's kind of like the 80-20 rule. It's just like, 20% of it has 80% impact, and you spend like so much time on something that only does a little bit. It's just harder to get involved in those projects.
I think there's going to be a lot of algorithm updates over the next year too. I think things are going to change a lot. And so
Do you think it'll
it's going to be hard
than last year or this year?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. A little bit. Yeah. I feel like there's just going to be a lot of change in the industry. And I don't know, I guess be prepared and study up and be ready to be frustrated, because I think it's going to happen.
I hope the year starts off with a bang and everyone's website gets deleted.
Well, I don't hope that, but anyone but mine. That's fine.
Oh man, you'll be looking real good. And here's Paul, the only man on the universe with the website.
Ooh, all the monies. So much money.
I can talk about anything, and I'm a bazillionaire.
I'd quit after 2 weeks.
You could quit
Get
after
a different job.
2 hours.
No, I think that's all we have really to cover, right?
Yeah, I just want to get people thinking, know where our heads are at, what we're working on, and hopefully people are a little bit more in sync with where we're at and what we're anticipating.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and I just wanted to say, thanks to all our listeners out there. We really appreciate you guys. Appreciate any of the feedback that you give us. Several of you send us questions, and we love to answer those and potentially have you guys on.
Yeah, we're accepting like applications from the MIT engineers at Google.
Yeah, if you'd like to be on, we'll talk to you. We'll listen to the stuff that you have to say, and then we'll use it to profit.
I'm into that.
If you wanted to get in touch with us, you can always reach out to us on Facebook. We're on Twitter now too. I don't really check that very often though, but
I certainly don't.
It's there. And then, we have a LinkedIn profile, and, you can always check us out through our website, which is seosdeadcast.com, or just leave a comment on our podcast homepage, and, we'll be happy to respond pretty quickly to you.
Excellent. Looking forward to hearing from everybody about how cool this podcast was.
All right. Well, thanks everyone for listening. I'm Paul Warren.
And I'm Ryan Klein.
And this has been another episode of SEO is Dead and Other Lies.
Sayonara. Bye.
Bye.